ways to educate people about beef and lamb and goat and veal, which is what I love because I'm a butcher. I've been in the industry for about nearly 45, just over 45 years. So, and I've been with MLA for just under 20. Lambs, I love breaking down lambs because it's got a lot of similarities to beef as well. So as I go through the lamb carcass, I might start calling out some beef cuts as well because it's exactly the same muscle structure. The only difference, obviously, is the size. Okay, so with a lamb, we break it down on a bench or on a bandsaw if we're in a processing facility. With beef, we'd hang it from a rail and we break it down more manually. There's a little bit of robotics involved in it in Australia. We've got some great robotics there how they to help the workers break down the beef, but a lot of it is still very manual. So these lambs are, in Australia, lambs are predominantly grass-fed, as you probably realise. There are a few grain feeding programs here, but about 95% of what we produce is grass-fed. The majority of the lamb comes from that sort of riverina area. So that where, I don't know, did you guys go down that part, Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, or? Oh, you went to Wagga. There's some nice lambs out there. Yep. So that's sort of like a good area down through there. So the bottom part, like this sort of southeast, I suppose you might call it, Australia, is really good lamb producing area. Western Australia also has some fantastic lamb producing areas there. Queensland not so much because it's so dry and arid. They don't have a lot of grass up there. There are a few lambs grown up there, but predominantly that southeast area of Australia and Tasmania. We don't want to forget our cousins down there. Beautiful lambs grown down there as well. This lamb here is roughly about 24 kilos. I like to go for something a little bit bigger because of the eye muscle, because it presents better on the plate for a chef and for a butcher. Because if I'm doing a demonstration with lamb, when I'm talking to people about it, I like to be able to show them some meat, not just a bit of bone and a little bit of fat on the outside and a skinny bit of meat. So I'd like to get something a little bit bigger. All this right in here, does everyone know what that is? I'll tell you. It's the identification. All right, so it's all about traceability in Australia. We have the best traceability systems in Australia, in the world. This actually helps me identify where the lamb came from. It'll give me the establishment number of the facility, which is the numbers. It'll tell me this is I think it's Radford's. That's the brand. That's the brand owner of the lamb. And in some cases, it'll tell me if it's halal or if it's what's the other one, or if it's mutton or hog as well. And that'll actually be determined by the colour of the stamp or the roll. We call that a roll because it's been rolled on, and in some states they just stamp it in 3 places on either side of the carcass. Sometimes you may see lamb in a supermarket in Australia that doesn't have anything on it, and that's because it's been processed and sliced up and tray packed at the same facility, at the processing facility. So it hasn't actually gone off the premises before it's been cut up. This is also gluten-free, so it's a vegetable diet. All right, so if you're a celiac, and I've had that question asked, that is gluten-free. So I think that's pretty much all I can talk about there. Apart from just letting you know that our traceability program in Australia is just saying biosecurity in Australia is paramount to the safety of everybody that eats our product. So that's why we have such stringent conditions coming into Australia. Right, so we'll break this into the normal cuts that we use. So we're going to take off the legs and the shoulder. So between the rump and the loin and the last joint, I think they call it the 6th vertebrae. Just mark around there. And their legs come off quite simple like that. So that's where we've got all those leg muscles, the butt muscles. So you've got your butt cuts there, you've got your top side, your knuckle and your silver side. And then there's your rump down there, or your lamb chump. We've still got the saddle and the shoulder. So between the 5th and the 6th rib, I'm just going to mark through there. Cut that off with the saw. That'll give me an 8 rib rack. Well, I hope it does anyway. So it all breaks down quite simply. So I'm obviously doing it by hand in the processing facilities. It's all done with machinery. Some of the technology we have in Australia is absolutely amazing, where they can actually break the whole thing down, split the racks and everything, the loins. I don't know if you've seen the video of that, but it's pretty cool. So your saddle, your legs, your shoulder. The shoulder's probably, I think, you guys get a square cut shoulder, I'd imagine, where you've got the neck taken off, the shanks and the breast taken, so you've basically got the best part there. Yep. This is the full forequarter. We get the same cuts off it, just a little bit extra, few extra bits and pieces as well. I think the best part about it is we try to, as a butcher, we try to get the most out of these cuts as possible. So we don't like to have too much trim, neither do our processors. They like to make sure they're utilising everything. So in a butcher shop scenario, if I was going to cut this up, we would probably generally run it through the bandsaw, split it in half, take off the shank and breast to make it nearly into a square cut, and then we'd cut 4/4 chops off it. We get left with a lot of scraps, a lot of trim, so that goes into our burgers and our sausages and meatballs and other further value-added products. But I try and look for a better way to utilise this, keeping it whole so we can make more money. So generally, in a butcher shop, they would take the shoulder off at the seam there, whereas I like to come in under the armpit there. So I'm leaving a bit more meat on the rib bones there. So I'm just looking for the seam. So that's the seam that separates the shoulder from the fore. And it's just following that around and removing that. Same side, same on the other side. End up with two shoulders. Again, just locate that little pocket there, the seam. And she pretty much just nearly falls away. So there's not a lot of cutting involved, is there? Because we've found the seam. And that's what we're looking for. Just makes it a lot easier, a lot less cutting. So now I've left all that meat on there rather than hanging off the side, which generally gets trimmed up, or when it's cooked it actually reduces down to very little. And we'll show you what we'll do with that in a minute. So the shoulder, there's a little bit of work to do, so taking off that little bit of corner fat there. Sometimes we find a little gland in there, in that section. Just remove that. Take that silver skin off so it doesn't affect the eating quality. And that's what we call pretty much a banjo shoulder or a bone-in shoulder, all right? Still got the shank on, you've got your three bones in there. You've got your shoulder, your shank bone, your leg bone, and obviously your scapular bone. How good is the shoulder? They are the best. I think they are, flavour-wise and cookability, they rate number one with me. Many years ago, I had a couple of butcher shops. Customers would come in and they'd ask for a shoulder of lamb. And I'd say, what do you want a shoulder for? There's too much bone in it. Go for a leg, it's bigger, you're going to get more meat, better value. And as I've got older, I've actually realised, hey, this has got a lot better flavour on the leg. You can't ruin this. You can overcook this, it's still going to eat nice and tender. It's going to go gelatinous, it's going to have a really nice punchy lamb flavour. Yeah, it's light and day between the texture and the flavour that you get out of legs and shoulders. So your shoulder, we'll just take the bone out, take the scapular bone, so there's a little bit of undercut there. And these are, if your customers are looking to do a braise or something, whether it's often better for them to purchase a bone-in product, because it's going to be more economical for them, and also when they cook it, they can just drop it straight in the pot. Oops, drop it straight in the pot, and that meat's going to basically fall off the bone, and you're getting the flavour of the bone as well. So rather than a bone and roll product, something with the bone in it often will give you a better flavour, a better result, and you've still got the bones that you can still do other things with as well. So pull out the scapular bone. There's our scapula. We'll keep the shank bone in as a whole because a lot of people love shanks and they're very popular here. I'll just open bone that so you can see that's all it is. So that's how it all pans out. Alright, does a lot of work, this muscle. When you think about it, with the lamb's head up there, you know, there's probably about nearly 10 kilos, 5 to 10 kilos there. They're doing a lot of work. These parts of the animal are not connected skeletically. In other words, they're not connected by bone. It's all muscle and tissue. And we're the same. We've got a scapular bone. Beef have got a scapular bone. So if you think about that, there's no bone that connects that to the rest of the animal. So it's all done with muscle movement. So just going to take that off. And we've got there's a bone shoulder. All right, a little bit of shin meat there. That's a bit of brachial muscle there. And if we're thinking about beef, that part of the animal is probably normally on maybe a 300 kilo carcass. It might be around about 12 kilos. All right, that part there, that's an oyster blade. That part there is an oyster blade of lamb, the middle section of the blade. All right. So look at the size difference. We'll take off the chuck tender. We'll take off the bowler. Yeah. There's your lamb oyster, and there's your beef oyster. So big difference in size, isn't there? So you can see why it's a lot easier to break down a lamb than it is a cow. But the flavour's still the same, nice and tender. I honestly think, I'll talk about it later, that is a really good piece of beef. It's just a really good steak out of that. So there's your little bowler roast, good for diced, good for a roast as well. You can roast that as well, you can roast the whole thing. It'll go great in a casserole. So your oyster, that's the oyster. That's your bowler. Sorry? That's the skin on, yeah, that's the fat on the outside, yeah. You can take that off if you want. I'd leave that on because it goes nice and crispy when you render it down and you get that flavour through it too. So we've still got a whole stack of meat to go, so I'm just going to trim that up a little bit. Everyone know what ossobuco is? Ossobuco?
Yeah.
Hey, from the shank? Yeah, generally cut from the shank. You've got a neck here. Ossobuco means?
It's like bone with a hole.
Spot on, yeah, that's it. I got it right there. Bone with a hole in it. So if you think about it, if it's a shank bone, like one of these, that's beef or veal, it's got marrow in the centre. So that's what they mean by bone with a hole in it. Alright? We can still, technically we can still call that ossobuco because it's got a hole in the bone. So we can do the same sort of cut with this part here, which is something that not a lot of people think about because it's generally sold either into other markets whole or it's boned out at the processing facility and it's going into mince or sausages. But we can do something, we can take that off there and you've got a lot of meat there. There's a lot of lovely neck meat there. It's also like chuck steak, pretty much. But leaving it on the bone, I can cut some little rosettes. And if I was to market it in my restaurant, I wouldn't call it a lamb rosette. I would probably, if it was a slow cook, I'd do it as a lamb ossobuco. And this is the sort of cut that one of these slices is a great little starter for somebody's restaurant. So an entree. got a little bit of paddy whack there, a little bit of fat. But if you look at that, there's a hole in there in the middle, so there's your bone with the hole in it. You got all that neck bone, and you've got all that beautiful neck meat there as well, all that chuck meat. So slow braised as a starter is a really good piece of meat. It needs a little bit of work. They're not all as nice as what those ones are. As we get further down, they lose a little bit more. But you see what I mean? You can get a lot of value out of that part there. So one of those as a starter in a restaurant is a really good idea. Served up on a bed of polenta or some rice or something like that with a bit of jus over the top. It's very nice. Probably about 3 hours to cook one of those. Cook up a few of those. You don't want to mistreat them. The chefs don't. They've got to be careful, be gentle with them when they pull them out, because otherwise it all falls apart. So it's a very slow, light braise. Shut that beyond. In the centre there. I'll show you. It's actually there. It's only very small. Very small. So we've still got all that to go. You know, normally we would have cut it into chops. We would have had a lot of chops and a lot of trim. Chef Sam's cooked up a couple of these as well today. These are what we call a Spanish rack or a 4/4 rack. I like the word Spanish rack. Sounds better. Sounds a bit sexier. So it's a matter of taking the backbone out. Just got to be careful not to cut too into too much meat. Remove that, take that out there, take the backbone. Everyone eats lamb here? Everyone likes lamb? Yeah. Beautiful, isn't it? You've had some pretty good meals while you've been here? Yeah. So we've got all that bone there. All these bones and that, I generally wouldn't throw them away, or Sam would use them making his sauces and stews. If we were going to do, in Australia we do a lot of, we like our soups in the cooler months. Pea and ham soup, which is a green pea with bacon bones and a bit of ham in it. There's nothing wrong with using lamb bones or beef bones either, because all we do, we would get the bones, we'd throw them into a cure, like into a salty brine, right? So that's where we corn our silver side. We'd throw that in there, leave it in there for a couple of days, pull it out and smoke it. So all that meat gets all nice and salty, the bone gets a bit of salt through it, and that's what gives the soup the flavour. And you get that smokiness as well. So it doesn't have to be pork. We can use lamb or beef bones for it as well, because it will absorb that saltiness. And you've also got a fair bit of meat on there as well, so it works exactly the same. So any type of soup where you're going to use bacon bones, I'd use that. This little, you can't really use it because it's been out for too long. Unfortunately. Somebody's dog might get some. So what we've got in, actually I just threw that out. In there, there's a little bit of yellow tendon. We call it the paddy whack. It's a yellow tendon. I just dropped it in there, I didn't mean to. But it runs all the way from the top of the neck up here, that's part of it there. And it's called the paddy whack or ligament nutrite. So it runs all the way from the top of the neck, all the way through the shoulder, through the rack, and down to there where it goes a little bit white. That's a really chewy piece of sinew or ligament. So you really got to make sure, the chefs have to be aware they must remove that, because people aren't going to chew it. It's quite tough. We actually, I think in some cases it's removed and it's used in some markets. Some markets do buy it. So here's that part where we've made a little bit more money out of this lamb. So rather than having that all boned out and thrown into the bin and the meat put aside for sausages or mince, I've got some ribs. some little breast ribs. Because we only get these two flaps there, the two breasts off the lamb there, right? So we need ribs are very popular. A lot of people love pork ribs, lamb ribs, beef ribs, short ribs. So now I've got a couple of little sheets of ribs, lamb breasts. Look at that, pretty cool. And you've got a lot of meat on the outside, which generally would have been used somewhere else. But we're increasing the yield on the whole lamb by doing things like this. I know on a square cut shoulder this doesn't have it, but if you happen to get in whole lambs or something like that, if you're using them, which I probably doubt it, because butchery is not a common thing in a lot of places. But even using these ribs, we've got it's a similar sort of thing. Rather than cooking them whole, we can make little bar snacks with them. So generally you would cook that whole like that. So you might braise that in a master stock, then chill it down and heat it up when you need it. So it's ready in the fridge, ready to go. With these, everybody likes cutlets, lamb cutlets, yeah? Yeah. We only get roughly 16 on an animal. We talk to the farmers, we say, can you give us more cutlets on the lambs, please? But they don't listen. They still give us that many. But anyway, so what we do, doing something like this. So if the parents are out for dinner and they have to take the kids with them, and the kids want a cutlet, and they go, oh geez, they're expensive, I don't want the kids to have that. You want to shut them up for a little while, you give them something like that. So it's like a lamb lollipop. So it's a little bit chewier, but egg and breadcrumb, shallow fry, deep fry. Add some flavour to it, a bit of spice or some sweetness to it, but it just cooks up really nice and it keeps the kids happy. And it's not as expensive for the parents to use. You know? So just something simple like that, we've now, made it for a meal for anybody really. So it's just little things like that that make it adding value. Even as a bar snack, in a hotel as a bar snack, you could have a little bowl of 3 of these ready to go. They don't take long to cook. Put some spice on so the patrons drink more beer. Just something like that. So something quite simple. We've still got this part as well. This is where we can get a shoulder rack from. I like to pull that little bit of meat back, just like we're preparing a normal neck rack. So remove that there and then just French it out so you take out those intercostals. So this sort of rack here is very similar to your 4/4 rack. It's a continuation of the same muscle. However, it does require a little bit more cooking, so it's not quite as tender as this part. But if you excuse my Frenching, my knife's a little bit sharp. I've been doing a lot of these. This is my 3rd one this week. But that's what we left with, something like that. So you've got a nice little rack like that. You've got a bigger eye muscle. You can put a bit of farce or something under there. Pull that back. We can tie that up with some food grade bands or some string. But look at the size of that. That's beautiful. And you're going to eat some of those and you'll see how tender they are. Yeah. So you can braise this in the piece and then slice it up nicely. So you've got 5 little chops like that. This one here, if you don't want to do that, we can get more ribs. There's another sheet of ribs we can use. And I've got a neck fillet, which is the same part there, but it's just the neck fillet. again, you can do the same thing, but think about what can you do? How can we substitute other proteins with this? Everyone likes fried rice. I know, I love fried rice.
Fried rice.
They use pork in that, like a red pork. I've cooked these, I've smoked these with some char siu, and it goes really, really red, lovely, sliced up and used it instead of the pork. But yeah, char siu in there. But that's a part of it you can use. Like that's all lean meat, there's no bone, but just something different like that. But they are a really good piece of meat. That's the lamb neck fillet.
So it's
Lamb neck fillet, yeah.
it is chuck roll of lamb.
Basically, yeah.
Neck fillet.
Yeah. So, you know, very good piece of meat, very versatile. So we've got a lot out of that one shoulder, haven't we? We've got the neck, we've got the shoulders, we've got the little riblets, all those different dishes that we can make out of that. So the rest of it we've got here is the saddle. There's your tenderloin in the centre there. That little part there, has anyone heard of the hanger steak? Hanging tender?
Yeah.
That's part of it.
It's small.
Yeah, it's normally longer, but don't ask for a lamb one because you probably won't get one. But that's where it's situated. So with beef, that's where it sits. If it was a cow, so it's a lot bigger, a beef one, and it joins up to the diaphragm there. So that is part of it. I like to point that out because it's one of those cuts beef hangers that's really, really popular. But that's where it sits. That's where it's situated. The kidneys sit there, and that's all sort of channel fat there. Then there's your tenderloins through that section,
Tenderloin.
and your back straps are on the other side. So that's your sirloin. You'd say it was beef, it'd be beef sirloin. That part there would be
Ribeye.
spot on, ribeye.
Ribeye.
Yeah. So that's your lamb ribeye there. All right.
You call ribeye on lamb.
No, it's the same cut. That's beef. So beef ribeye is in the same position. Or if it was on the bone, it'd be a ribeye on the bone. All right. So if you think about a lamb cutlet, it's actually a lamb ribeye on the bone. Or a cattleman's cutlet or a tomahawk. We'll show you a tomahawk. Lamb tomahawk.
Cutlet.
So we take that bit of fat out. I'm going to take that off of the last rib.
Xe video lần right.
Sorry,
Xe video.
the last rib. Yeah, so it's on right on the last rib, yeah. And then it's just to find the joint. So there's your rack and there's your loin. So that's how they are. So you get your loins, they'll be a little bit shorter there. You wouldn't get that on it. It'd be actually a lot shorter actually, won't they? That's lamb breast. Just like trim, that would go into trim. So when you get a saddle, lamb saddle, yours would be cut down to there, and that would go into, that would come off on the breast, and then they'd sell that whole somewhere else. They wouldn't trim it like what I do. Their cutting lines are a little bit different. Take out the fat, a little bit of channel fat there where the kidneys sit, protect the kidneys. So that gives you a better idea of where the tenderloins are. So when you think about tenderloin or your sweet cuts or your prime cuts, your tenderloin, your Scotch fillet or ribeye and your sirloin, that's just under 9% of the whole carcass weight. Just under. So that's a lot. That's not a lot when you consider you've got all the rest of it to go. So when you think about it, like if we were to buy a carton of beef tenderloins, there's 20 in a carton, 10 animals it took to fill that carton up. Then we've got your 20 sirloins, you've got your 20 ribeyes, but you've also got Then you've also got your 20 shoulders, your 20 chuck rolls, your 20 butt cuts of each butt cut to go. So there's a lot of other animal to use up. And that's what part of my role is, to look at those other parts because everybody can sell ribeye, tenderloin, sirloin, very popular. But it's my role is to look at how we can use these and incorporate those other cuts into everyday menus and help chefs utilise that.
Chef, so which cut is suited for shabu shabu? Which cut on the lamb?
For hot pot,
For hot pot.
thin slice, yeah. I'm just trying to think. Some of the butt cuts because they're leaner. You can use nearly anything. You could use chuck roll if you wanted to. You could use chuck roll, but it's going to fall apart. If you want it to hold together, I would use one of the butt cuts, like your top side, or your inside, or silver side, or your knuckle. You could use your knuckle. You can seam the knuckle out. You could even use the oyster blade if you wanted to, and the rump. They're all interchangeable, because shabu shabu is cooked very quickly, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Thin slice.
Need a little bit of fat, yeah. So some marbling, yeah. You could use a brisket, yeah. You could use brisket as well. This is basically the brisket part there. On land, yeah. Yeah, you could roll it up. Yeah, you could roll it up. You could eat, there's no reason why you can't sort of cut it. If it's a big, thick brisket, there's no reason why you can't portion that into pieces and then do it that way. Rather than have it round, you can have a nice rectangular piece like that. You know? So, but you need bigger briskets. And you get a Wagyu one, nice Wagyu brisket, that'll have a lot of marbling through it. No. You could use any part, any of those back muscles. You could use them. Won't have a lot, no. There are lambs out there that do marble, that do have a lot of marbling, but they're very expensive. And I don't think they're actually going into the export market yet. It's a program that's just being developed in Victoria at the moment. They're a Hampshire Downs lamb, that's their breed, and they actually go up to a marble score 8. Yeah. They're big lambs. They're about a foot. This is 24 kilos. The Hampshire Downs one they use are about 40 kilos. So nearly twice the size, you know. But beautiful lamb, big eye muscle, a lot of marbling, a lot of fat. But if that's what you're after, that's what you got to look for. This part here is it's like the skin of the lamb. I like to take that part off because what's the best part? You know, when you think about a pork roast, the crackling. Everybody says the same thing. What about the meat? No, don't worry about the meat. We can do the same with this part here. We can develop a lamb crackle with this. So we put this between a couple of sheet pans, like in the oven, at about 200 degrees for an hour. So they stay nice and flat. And then once they're trimmed down cold, cut them into little thin slim slices, put a bit of, I don't know what sort of, some sort of flour over it, seasoning over it, and just deep fry very quickly. And it puffs up.
So it goes the same as one.
Better.
Better.
It's lamb. How come? I don't know.
Does it serve in restaurants?
Yeah, it's not common. It's something that we've been working with the students. See, I do a lot of training with students, and one thing I say to them, make me some lamb crackle out of that, and they do. But some restaurants may do it. I haven't seen it in mainstream restaurants, but it's just something different. You know, you don't get a lot off the lamb, and it's getting the exporters to actually do it and harvest it so they can make it available. But it's just something cool. If you've got bits of lamb like this where you're removing that, it just gives you an opportunity to use a little bit on the dish. You don't need a lot. You could just use it as a garnish. Pretty much. Yeah, but with your loins like these, when they've got a lot of fat on them, this one's not too bad. But if they've got a lot of fat, it comes off a lot easier. So you can pretty much take the whole lot off carefully. So you're left with a nice white piece of meat. You know why I wear gloves, don't you? There we go. Once you get it started, it comes off a lot easier. So we can pull that off like that, so you've got a big sheet of it. Alright, so, and that way you've got a nice clean loin like that, and it looks a lot nicer rather than having someone written all over it. To bone this out, we can take the tenderloins. This is only part of the tenderloin because the other butt part, the Chateaubriand, is still sitting in there. So this is what they call, if this was beef, this would be a strap-on tenderloin because it's still got the strap on the side, and that's a strap off. Alright, so that's all the strap is. That actually eats pretty well, even on beef. Like it doesn't, it's not tough at all, it's very good. So if you're thinking about strap-off tenderloin to a strap-on tenderloin, that part still eats well, and that together is probably going to be more economical for you to buy for your customer than a strap-off. But that's the only difference. You know, so if someone's looking for a cheaper option, use the strap-on. It doesn't look. You can still mould it to look nice and round. You know, you can still wrap it up and make it nice and round. But yeah, so that's your tenderloin there. Tenderloin. Very tiny, yeah.
How do you cook it?
Very quickly.
Medium
Yeah,
rare?
yeah.
Rare.
Like some people will use it on the satay, on a skewer. You can skewer that. Or just like that on the barbecue, on the grill plate like that. A little bit of herbs, some nice herbs on it or something. But it's just so sweet.
When you buy it from export, it comes in a bag with many of it.
Yeah.
There's no one single.
Yeah,
It's a bag with a lot of it.
probably about 5 kilos in a bag. So what I want to do here is take off the back strap, or the loin. I'm going to take the bone out of it. This is a nice little roast you can do up as a big roast, or we can cut it into smaller noisettes. So take the bone out there, and that way we can roll that up like that, and we can truss that so you've got a double-eyed loin. Alright, so like that. We just truss that up with some string. Alright, you can put seasoning in it as well, or you can even lay them back in there and use them like that if you want to. But putting a nice seasoning or a farce in here is really nice. We can then slice it in half. Take out, that's that ligament through the back there, I like to remove. That's part of the paddywhack, that's that yellow tendon that runs through the body. You can get rid of that. Alright. And then you can sort of use this part here like a little noisette as well, so you can do a smaller portion or a nice little roast for two, maybe. Or what I like to do.
Well, you cut that off. The edge of sirloin.
Why? To make a smaller portion, to tidy it up. If it was my shop, I wouldn't. But I'm not here to make money. I'm here to make friends. That's a lamb sirloin. Lamb sirloin. So you can actually probably request a skin on, like fat on, or you get the loin, you bone it out, you've got your fillets, and you've got that, and you can portion that into 2 or 3 pieces. So you've got something similar like a salmon portion. Now, salmon's very popular in Australia. I don't know if salmon's very popular in the Asian market. Yeah. But that, you can cut that in half, or I'd probably do 3 for more so for finer dining. But look at that, like take that little bit of fat off there. So that's a nice little portion for like one. but it's beautiful tender. It's lovely and tender. You know, so you got a lamb sirloin.
I have a question.
And that,
I have a question. Usually, do you find the restaurant like the lamb short loins or like T-bone cut here?
lamb T-bones. Yeah.
This is like a popular.
Yeah. We call them lamb loin chops.
How again?
Lamb loin.
Oh, okay.
That's what we loin chops.
Loin
Lamb
chops.
T-bones actually sounds better, but we traditionally we call them a lamb loin chop. Yeah, and we can do a Barnsley chop as well. So you've got that's both sides cut straight through. So you've got both loin with the bone, and we just cut straight through like that. Nice and thick, cut through on the joint. And very good too. Great way to use loins. The Barnsley chop. We'll do something with that later on. So there's a lot you can get out of the loin just rather than like loin chops. We've got a little bit of garnish, some nice little bits. So this part is,
And
you want to remember?
Yeah.
Part of it.
The old one, right? What you say? But also,
We have the
What's your
loin,
secret?
and then we have the exactly the rack, the cut rack. I'm going to take the backbone out on this. So this is the other rack that you can get.
Right. Ribeye.
Pull that out. So this is what you get at home. Is a cutlet rack, but there's different versions we can do. If you can get them like this. There's that patty whack tendon. So we would take off the breast. Which one is this one? Take off the breast of that, so nice and even. So there's more short ribs. Okay. That's your cap-on rack. We've still got a bit of scapular bone there. I don't know, can you buy cap-on racks like this? Yeah. Yep. That'd be the most economical way to buy it.
the most economical is the one bony, so you still have the
So you got the chine bone on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, right. Okay. So then you got to take that off if you,
Yes.
which can be a little bit. You got a bandsaw or handsaw? Or?
Usually people they just debone it. I
They
don't
bone-
use,
oh, right,
yeah,
right.
I don't use a bandsaw to take it out.
Yeah.
So
Just they bone the whole thing.
we use it especially French people to make the soup and stuff.
Ah, right. Yeah, yeah.
But most of the, I mean, my Asian customer, they don't take it with the bony.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
CFO, capo, but still can sell
So this part here is that's what we call a cap-on rack. So that's got everything on it except for the bone. What I want to do, so the price point is this is probably apart from the bone on. This is one of the cheaper ways or more economical ways to purchase it. So when you think about the reason why it costs so much to get to the end result is because the amount of work and the amount of trim we have to take off it. So there's your little bit there. We've got still got the intercostals in, so the next step is to take them out. Alrighty. So we'll take them out. More trim. That's looking a bit more like a rack now, isn't it? We've got the cap still on it. We can take that off. 8 rib. 8, yep.
7, right?
Yeah, exactly. 16 off the plan. There's more skin. So you've got a nice little bit of fat on the outside of that. I like to leave them like that because just sort of protects the meat when you cook it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a delicate piece of meat, that eye muscle, but it is very tasty. I like that fact because then you can render that down and it makes
Yeah.
it look a lot bigger for the customer too. If you really wanted to go fine dining, we can take the whole lot off. Right down to the silver skin. So you've got all that, the wholesaler, the exporter's got to find somewhere for that, and that's why that is so much more dear, a lot dearer to purchase than what it is with the meat on it. Because the amount of
In
work.
Australia, you're still eating with the cap on, right?
Yeah, we normally do, yeah. Very, in fine dining you find them,
No.
but
What
I
a
would
waste.
much, I know.
It's where the flavor comes
That's
from.
the flavour. That is flavour. And you could go further and take that silver skin off if you really wanted to. But that is, you know, the most. It's another way to put it. Another way to put it. The other rack. What we can do here. Is make what we call a lamb tomahawk. So we're leaving all that together. Again, you'd have to get whole lambs or be able to buy the whole rack like that. And what I like to do, is pull this part out here, using the sirloin. That part up there, like we're going to take the cap off.
Porterhouse.
Alright. Guess what we're going to do?
Gonna tuck
Put that in there, we pull that around. So you end up with a bigger eye muscle. So you can actually. So we pull that around, so you can use a meat glue. Yeah, you can use a meat glue with that. That'll bond that down. A bonding agent will bond that down. Then you've got to vacuum it down in a backpack because if you tie it up, you won't get rid of all the air. So with the vacuum, it sucks all the air out, pulls that all nice and tight, and bonds it really hard. So when you slice it, there's no holes.
Yeah.
It all looks like one piece. I've done them with like three of those in it. It's about the same size as an iPhone. So they're nice and big and they look beautiful, but it's just another way. And you cut it 2 ribs thick, so you can go, I'll take that out. But we can cut that. You can still just do it like this if you wanted to. It's just something, it's a point of difference. And you can only do it with Australian lamb. You can't do it with any other lamb because it'll burst up in flames and catch on fire.
Was that a joke?
Yeah. But no, it is probably the best way to, I think these are cool. You know, it's big, it's something different, it's something that a chef can put on their menu and have that point of difference.
So just everyone, I've got some water. You might, it's a bit hard when you're holding glass. If you want to grab a bottle, you're more than welcome to grab a bottle. There's one there for you.
Sorry? Lamb tomahawk, yeah. Lamb tomahawk. But like I said, you can make it, you know, you can make it bigger if you wanted to using one of these. This is the back strap. It's actually called the loin eye. It's not it's part of the back strap. A lot of people will call that the back strap, but it's actually the loin eye. So we can take all that silver skin off. There we go. So there's your loin eye. You buy them as well, you see. So that's what we get out of that part, that top end of the animal, which is not bad. You get a fair bit out of it, a lot of different cuts, a lot of different plate options. So these are the legs, 2 legs. This part here is, does anyone have a guess what this part here is? If it was beef,
Which one?
this muscle here.
Flank, right?
That's about right. Flank. So that's the lamb flank. You probably wouldn't want to ask for one of those.
I never see.
Yeah, you probably won't get them, but that's where it comes from in beef. It's right in that section there, so the abdominal muscle.
It looks amazing.
So that's a lamb flank, but don't ask for them because you probably won't get them. But that's where they are, that's what they look like. But if it was beef, it'd be a lot bigger depending on the size of the animal. So what I want to do now is show you a couple of options with lamb leg. So in Australia, lamb leg is very popular as a traditional roast on the weekend or any time of the week really. So much we can do with this part of the animal. For a thin slice, to a roast, to a mini roast. We can barbecue it, we can stir fry it, pan fry it, put it into a pho, curry it. There's a lot of meat. So what I'm doing, I'm taking out what they call the H bone and the crutch bone or the rump bone. So you would buy legs similar to this, a long leg with the rump on. So that's all that's going to come off. So that's probably how you would buy your legs, like that. They might be trimmed a little bit better. That part there is your Chateaubriand. That's the butt fillet. That little part there. A bit smaller than beef, isn't it?
Too small.
Too small, exactly, yeah. So that actually connects up to the tenderloin, like that. So that connects up to that there. So that's actually your whole tenderloin. Alright? Makes sense now? Yeah. That's the butt fillet. So that's the top end of the fillet. So now we've got the complete tenderloin.
Is it that part, the chump, the one they call it?
Yes. Yeah. So bone in its chump, boneless its chump, rump. So I think the rump would be my most popular cut for a lot of reasons. It eats well as a chump chop. It eats quite well with the bone. These days we don't. It's more of that's a very traditional cut. In Australia, a lot of butchers still cut them, but they don't sell as many as what they'd like to. So what we do, we bone them out. So you end up, like when you get here, is a semi-boneless leg. You've still got your shank bone and your leg bone, you've got all those muscles. You've got a rump there, so we take the rump off, straight at the very bottom of the bone. Alright?
Because these are usually when we buy is like that.
You get them, do you?
Because it's chump off.
That's chump off, yeah.
Yeah, usually
But this is chump on, you can get them chump on as well. So they're a long leg. So you've got that. That is a really nice little roast, as it is. You can steak it to get your lamb rump steak like that. Cut it thin. You can do anything with that. The other one here, take that one off. Again, pull out that bit of fat. So if you're thinking beef rump, so exactly the same muscles. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 5 muscles there, so 5 subprimals in the one primal. That's a beef rump. All right, so that's just your size difference. Same amount of muscles, yep, but just the size difference. So we're going to subprimal that one, so you can see a little bit more about that. So you've got all your fat on that. I like the cap off. So all we do there is pull the cap off. So it's a leaner piece. You've still got to use that somewhere. So your rump cap and your tri-tip. That's your tri-tip, that end, and that's your rump cap. That is a cap off rump. So about 10-15 minutes in the oven. You just render it down, like sear it in the pan into the oven. A really beautiful piece of meat, slice across the grain. Good meal for one, sometimes for two if they're not big eaters. Or you've got it with the cap on. Very, I find that a great cut, and it's so versatile. You can dice it, you can put it whole like that, put it on skewers, into a casserole, braise. This one here, your legs. One of the things that I did a long time ago to a big company in America, they were looking for a shared roast. They wanted to put grass-fed lamb on the menu, and they wanted to do a shared roast. And they looked at the shoulder, but they wanted something that they could actually put out on the table for their customers to sort of enjoy. So we showed them what we call an easy carve leg. So the reason why we do this is because it makes it easier to carve. So I'm going to take out the knuckle. I'm going to pull the knuckle out of this leg. So the round, so I'll pull that out, find the seam between the silver side and the knuckle. I'm just going to roll that out. I want to leave that fat there, all connected. You'll see why in a minute. So if I pull that out, like so. There's your lamb knuckle there. A nice lean little mini roast as it is. You can dice that one as well. So we've got all that still there. We've got to take that leg bone out. Oops. It's going everywhere now, isn't it? So there's your leg bone. So now we've got a semi-boneless leg. What I've got there, you've got a little gland in there, a little bit of fat, so you've got to take that out. That sits in between the top side and the silver side. It's just underneath what they call the heel muscle. So you've got to pull that out. It just doesn't look good with a big lump of fat in there, and plus there's just a little bit of a gland in there as well, So you've got to get rid of it. That way, we've got a semi-boneless leg. You can put some seasoning there because we've now got a void in there, so I'm going to use my Chateau Briands. There's my seasoning. I can take that off too. I'll pop that in there as well just for now. And I can roll that around with that fat. So now I've got a roast that anybody can carve up. Right up to there, because you've only got the shank bone, we don't have that bone in. So people can slice it. So what this company wanted was a roast that they could put out there in the piece, and then the front of house can then come along and carve it up and make a bit of theatre in their restaurant. So it's like if you've ever been to a restaurant when they pull out a tomahawk, they go to the table, would you like this tomahawk, man? Yes, that one's a nice one. You do the same thing with the leg of lamb. They can have them already pre-cooked. They only take about 45 minutes to cook anyway. But you can pull it out and you can make some theatre. The chef can do some theatre with it. he could serve probably 6 or 7 people with a whole leg. That's 6 or 7 plates he doesn't have to plate up, or she doesn't have to plate up. One big plate, vegetables or salad around it, out on the table, that's it. So it just makes it easier for chefs. But they are great. They eat well, they look nice all sliced up. Because when we slice a leg of lamb, you've got the bone in the middle there, so we can only get little slices. Yeah. So, you know, it's hard to make a leg of lamb look sexy on a plate unless you're going to cover it in gravy. But like that, you've got a nice round piece. I'll truss that up a bit later. Or you can do other things with legs as well. So, like I said, the knuckle, great piece of meat, diced, stir fry. I wouldn't steak it because it's got a lot of sinew in there, like knuckle, there's 3 muscles in the knuckle. But I can do this, we can butterfly it out. So you've got something similar to a mini roast. We can cut that in half. You know? And that, you can put some seasoning on that, some nice spice or whatever. Quickly cook it on the grill or in the oven. It's like you can get so much out of a leg. So if I do the same again, pull out that leg bone again. Nice big lamb shank with a bit of the heel muscle on it. Then I split this muscle in half. I'll show you where there's that gland that we must pull out. So that's that little bit of fat there. So you want to dig that out.
Between the foreshank and the shank, do you find any different in terms of taste?
Just size. Just the size. Some like some prefer a lamb. Some prefer a lot of chefs prefer the iron shank because it looks a little bit nicer. The foreshank's a bit harder to make look nicer, but you can actually make it look a little nicer by just taking that off. I don't know if there's any price difference, but you can just take like that. So you could like a nice little drumstick like that, which is a little bit nicer looking than having that little bit of the hook on the end of it. But taste difference, nothing to do with it. It's all shin meat. It's all shin meat. That one there, we made into a butterflied lamb leg. So you can do that in the oven, the grill, the barbecue. You've got the best of both worlds there, because if someone likes it well done, the silver side, it's a little bit thinner. Or if you want something a little bit rarer, you've got the top side. Or you can actually just butterfly that out if you want it all the same roughness. So it's like that. Okay, so serving that up is easy. You slice back in a salad, vegetables, in the grill. Again, probably 30 minutes. Not a long time because it's so thin. But you're using the whole leg. So you've got your shank that you can use as well. You've got your knuckle, which will go into a smaller mini roast or a little roast. So you can season that as well. We can pop some seasoning in there. Yeah, really nice piece of lamb. So that's what we get out of the lamb. We get a fair bit, don't we? Not just chops and cutlets.
Nói cho chắn mềm. Đoán nói cho chắn nó mềm. Sâu được.
Doug, I have a question. So for yakiniku,
Yeah.
for yakiniku, like very thin, yeah. So the eating quality of the leg, shoulder, and loin, there are any different or any big gap in
Your
can
quality.
they use? Yeah, eating
Look,
quality.
your loin's always going to be the best.
Yeah.
Your loin will be the best, but it's going to be the most expensive part of
Yes.
it. I would use the leg because you've got sort of the muscles,
Yeah.
like you saw with the, like even if you use the knuckle,
Yeah.
you know, you can cut that to a degree and then slice it thin. You know, you're getting a solid piece of meat. There's no fat on the inside. Depends if you want fat.
Yeah.
If you want fat, you use the shoulder. I'd even use the chuck it off.
Yeah.
You can,
It's still tender, right? For the yakini.
Yeah.
It's
Because it's so thin.
Yeah. Dạ. Short leg. Biscuit với cả short leg.
okay.
Tại vì
So
một
now we're
số
going to do
nhà
a
sản
little
xuất
bit
thì
of
họ
beef.
sẽ
How we
dùng
going?
cái đó để tổng hàng nhưng mà tại vì nó rất
How we
nhỏ,
going?
nó rất là mỏng so với thường.
Ready?
Bác có burger bác để bác dùng mà. Sẽ thành xay thành mince. Họ sẽ sử dụng nhỏ chay cũng là nhỏ quá. Đã để làm, với cả ở đấy người ta có nướng để ta làm lẩu đó. Nên người ta dùng burger là
So this is what we call a vacuum packed piece of beef, right? A vacuum packed D-roll. You know what vacuum packaging is? Yeah? It's when the meat's put in a bag and the air's sucked out. There's no chemicals, no nothing. It's just meat in, air out. And it gives it better shelf life. So the longer it's in the bag, we call that wet aging. If we were to dry age, you put it in a dry age, wouldn't you? This is wet aged. Export quality meat that you would get, like this, has about 4 months shelf life from